Hey guys, I have misplaced my heart sunglasses and it is depressing me. I actually legitimately feel happier when I'm wearing them. I know that sounds crazy, but I do. So hopefully I will find those soon because for some strange reason they make me happy. But this morning I woke up to Instagram, and one of the ladies that I follow on Instagram is having a really tough time. Her situation, she's a foster mama, and they have been fostering, her and her husband have been fostering for a lot longer than me and my husband, and they have had a lot more children than we have. Their story is really awesome. They have a YouTube channel. It's called Fill Our Home. If you haven't already gone and checked it out, you totally should, because it's pretty awesome. She doesn't have the chance to upload as much as I do, just because she has literally a gajillion kids. No, she's not that many. But she has 2 biological, 1 adopted from birth, and they are they are foster parents on top of that. So she's just had a lot of experience. And before we got our girls, and even when we first started fostering and we got our first daughter, I would watch their channel, and it would kind of just make me feel better, because their goal for foster care, what they intend for foster care for their lives, is very similar to what me and my husband want to do. And they're very big on family reunification, which is huge. A lot of people that do foster care struggle with that aspect of it, and that's a whole nother video. But she brought up something today that I don't know that I've talked about on my channel before. I think I have, but I just wanted to kind of address this particular issue, and it is sibling sets and why they can be split in care. So our story so far, we've had technically 2 placements, I guess. It's 1 case, so but it's 2 sisters. And we got the youngest sister first. We got her, and we had her for 6 months before we got her older sister. So people ask, well, why do siblings get split, or, different things like that. In some cases, and this isn't all cases, but in some cases, there is what is called a trauma bond. This is a bond that occurs between siblings who've experienced trauma, and all they understand and know is chaos. They don't understand how to communicate very well. That's kind of one of the bigger things that I've noticed with this type of concern, is that they literally don't know how to play together appropriately. And so little things that they do will trigger their sibling. And this can cause large outbursts. And so sometimes it is best that for a period of time, siblings be separated. And this doesn't mean that A, they will never live together, or B, that they can't ever see each other again. But it just means that they need a break. With our girls, when John and I started doing foster care, we wanted to do foster care because we wanted to keep siblings together. Me and my brother are 14 months apart. We're very, very close in age, and we have a pretty close relationship. We always have. And so part of the reason I wanted to do foster care is because, as I've talked about before, an acquaintance of mine was doing foster care, and he had a little boy in his house, and their family could not take his sister. So him and his sister were separated because there was nowhere that was able to take 2 kids, and his sister had some needs that family wasn't willing to deal with. And so John and I really wanted to keep siblings together. It was something that was very important to us. And so when we got the call for our first foster daughter, it was really confusing, because it's Lord, I don't understand why we got in this to keep siblings together, and now we're separating siblings. This is so weird. But we were told it was going to be a short-term thing, and so I figured, well, at some point they'll all get back together and it'll all work out. That situation obviously changed the concern for our girls and their behaviors, I believe was more of an issue with placement, not an issue with the girls. But our youngest kind of needed that one-on-one time, and so it was convenient for our family because we didn't have any other children. Literally, she was the only child in our home for 6 months, which doesn't seem like that long when you say just 6 months, but for a kid, that's a long time. So it was really beneficial for her to have that bonding time with us and then add in another child. Yes, siblings should be able to stay together if at all possible, but there are times and there are circumstances when that is not possible. And people need to understand that for the safety and sanity of everyone involved, it is appropriate in moments for that to happen. Like I said, that doesn't mean that they can't ever be placed together again. It may just be a period of time. Now, I will say this, the older that they are, the less likely it is that they're going to recover from being triggered by that kind of thing. And if they are, then you know what? If that happened to us, what we would do if we were going to adopt and that was going to be the situation is we would maintain contact with the other family that had the siblings so that they always know that they have open communication and contact, but they just can't live in the same home. If that's possible. There will be cases where that is not possible as well, depending on what has happened. And like I said, the older the kids are, the more likely it is that they're not going to recover, and there may be a chance for physical or psychological damage to their sibling just because they've been through too much. They need separation and time. I would say that those are probably the acceptable reasons for separating siblings. As I alluded to a minute ago, there are times when there are multiple siblings and there is not a home that is willing to take all of the siblings, especially, or there may be legal reasons why they don't, how do I put this? Okay, so the Indian Child Welfare Act is shortened to ICWA. If you guys haven't ever heard of ICWA before, that is the Indian Child Welfare Act. It applies to all Native American children. And it specifically applies to those children in foster care. Depending on how many kids are in a sibling set and what that law does, and this should be the same for every child anyway, but it adds one more layer of bureaucracy in for Native American children. What it does is it says that all Native American children, if they're taken and placed in foster care, should be placed with a family member. If the family member is not available, they should be placed in a home that is in the same tribe as them. So or community. So Navajo, Salt River, Cherokee, those kind of things. They should be placed in the same group. If that's not available, they should be placed in a native home of a different tribe. And then if that's not available, they can be placed with a different race of people. If you have a situation where there are kids that fall under ICWA and there's a large sibling set that comes into care, they're going to first look for native homes. If there's a native home that's willing to take, say, a baby out of this sibling set of 6 kids, that baby is going to stay there, is going to stay with that native home. And the longer that they're in that home, the less likely it is that they're going to put all those siblings back together if they come up for adoption. So even if you found in this instance, in an instant like ours, even if they found a home that was a different race, they're less likely, but that is a different race, but is willing to take all of the siblings together, they're less likely to move the kids out of the native home and place them with their other siblings because of ICWA. There could also be, again, psychological reasons for why it's not beneficial to move small children in with their older siblings, but that's kind of what we've experienced. And then also, if you put the kids in a different home and they start to thrive really well, and then you start doing visitation and trying to interact to see if there's a possibility to put those siblings back together, and they start reacting really badly, then they're not going to put them back together. Those are all reasons. Like I said, it all depends on the case and the situation, but you can't just assume that it's like, yeah, they're siblings, they should be together. As a general rule, sure, but there are times when it is not appropriate, and that needs to be understood and appreciated. And if you are really that concerned about it, you should become a foster parent and help with the problem. Those are my thoughts on that. And yeah, like, it's hard knowing that, you know, you're taking care of these kids and they may go back to a situation and they may come back into care. John and I have already talked about that with our girls. If that were to happen, we would maintain a situation where we could take them back if they came into care, just because our girls are really difficult to place because of what they've been through. We anticipate that if they do move, it would be unlikely that wherever they go would be willing to keep them long term, just because John and I are willing and able to put up with things that other people won't. And that doesn't mean that we're like some amazing people. It just means that we have the ability to do that. I have no biological children. I have no other children in my home, so I can do that. I don't have a full-time job. I mean, I do. I'm a full-time student, but that I can make that work, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's not saying that other foster families aren't good placements. There's just certain things that your family can't handle because you have too many other things going on. So yeah. If you guys have any questions about siblings or siblings being separated or that kind of thing, or if you have any questions about ICWA, like I said, Indian Child Welfare Act, let me know. You can leave that in the comments below. I do support ICWA. I think it is a good practice to try and put children with their culturally appropriate families. But when that's not available, I think that a different race can be just as positive of a placement as long as they are open and willing to educate the child on their cultural background, which John and I are. So yeah, just want to put that out there. If anybody sees this and they're like, oh my gosh, you hate ICWA. I do not hate ICWA. I think it's a good thing in practice. I think that there are parts that make it a little bit more complicated. I do think it's slightly racist because I think that everyone should be able to have that same consideration. But in general, it's a fairly good practice. Yeah. Please feel free to subscribe. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. Like this video if you thought it was a good content and you would like others to see it, because that does help it get viewed by others on YouTube. And I will see you guys later.